in task 4.3, the user is going to input the member ID, and then we are going to look in the file for that member ID. If we find that ID in the file, then we are going to output the corresponding date of visit. So if, for example, the member visited the club 4 times, then each of those 4 dates must be output. So we're going to search the file, look for his dates of visits, find his ID, look for his date of visit, and output his date of visit. Now if the membership number is not found, if the ID is not found in the file, then we have to output a suitable message. Okay, let's take a look at the solution. What you must note here is that on the right hand side, this is our sample file, right? So this is a sample file with data inside it, and we can see, that we have 3 lines of data here, and each line has the member ID, which is shown in pink, which is the first 6 characters, and then the date of visit, which is the last 8 characters in the line. So that was how we saved our file. Remember, that was how we saved our file in task 4.1 and 4.2. Okay, let's take a look at the code. In the code, the first 2 lines are declarations of different variables that I'm going to be using. One of the variables I'm going to be using is the found variable. The data type of the found variable is Boolean, and what I've done is I've initially set found to false. So found is only going to be set to true if I have found the member ID within the file. So remember, the user was going to input a member ID, and then I was going to search that member ID within my file. If I am able to find that member ID within my file, then I'm going to set found equals true. Okay, so that is why we are using found. Okay, so importantly, I have opened the file and I've also made sure that I close the file. So this is very important. So what is the logic of this code? Well, we are taking the member ID as input from the user, and then we are running a loop. We are running a loop because we know there are multiple lines of data inside the file. So this loop will keep running while we have not reached the end of file. While we have not reached the end of the file, this loop is going to keep running. So inside this loop, we are doing 2 things. First, we are reading a single line from the file. So we are reading a single line from within the file, and once this line is read, the entire line is going to be read with the help of read file instruction, and the entire line of data is going to be copied into the str line variable. Okay, so this is what we are doing. We're reading a single line of data from within our file using the read file instruction, and then we are trying to find out whether this particular line has the member ID that we were interested in, because remember, the member ID was input by the user. So we're using this if condition to determine whether the member ID that was input by the user has been found in the line. And remember, in our line, the first 6 characters were the member ID. So we've used the left function, left string str line comma 6, to extract the first 6 characters. So this would give us our member ID found in the file, that found in that particular line, and then we are going to compare this member ID with the member ID that was input by the user. If both of these are the same, that means we found our member in the file. And once we found our member in the file, we have to output the corresponding date of visit. So the corresponding date of visit has to be output. So the last 8 characters have to be output, and for that I have used the mid str line function. Remember, I have given the starting position here. So this is the position, right? I said that the starting position for the mid function is the 7th character, which would be this character, right? This is where the date is starting. And I have not mentioned any length. Normally the mid function takes 3 parameters. It takes the variable, it takes the position, and it takes the length. But since I have not specified the length in this case, I have only given 2 variables. from position 7 onwards, all the remaining characters are going to be returned. All the remaining characters are going to be returned by this mid function. So this mid function is going to output the date, is going to return the date, and then that date is going to be output using the output instruction. Okay, found obviously has been set to true. So this will keep happening, this loop will keep running till we reach the end of the file. And if that member ID is found on several lines, then each time each line is going to be checked to determine whether the member ID on this line equals the member ID that was provided by the user. And if they match, then we're going to do our output. We're also going to set found equals true. So this is going to keep happening as long as the loop is running. Once the loop is over, we have this statement. What if found was not equal to true? What if that member was he had no visits, right? So his data was not found in the file. In that case, we are going to output this message, and finally we are going to close the file. Okay, and this is our solution in Visual Basic. It has the same logic. The only difference is in how we handle the file, right? In this case, we open a file stream and we open a stream reader because we want to read from within the file, and finally we are also going to close down the file stream as well as the stream reader. Okay, and these here are the variables that I have declared, right, that I'm going to be using in the program. Found is a boolean variable which has been set to false. I take the member ID as input from the user, then I run through my file. I keep going through my file while I have not reached the end of the stream. Okay, the function that we've used here is the stream reader function. It's a built-in function for the stream reader which is called the end of the stream function. So the stream reader is going to keep so this file is going to keep running whilst the stream reader has not reached the end of the stream. So while we have not reached the end of the stream, this loop is going to keep running. Each time this loop runs, we are reading a single line using the sr.readLine function. Remember, readLine is a built-in function which is a function that is part of the stream reader class, right? So sr.readLine will read a single line, and that single line is going to be stored in the strline function. Once again, we are using the left string manipulation function to extract the member ID from within that line, and then that is going to be compared to the member ID that was provided by the user. If both of these match, that means we found our member, and therefore we are going to do our output. In the output, we are going to output the date, and we've output the date using the mid function, which is a string manipulation function, and this string manipulation function will return all the characters in the line starting from position 7. Okay, found has been set to true, and this loop will keep running, right? So if we have multiple lines, this loop will run multiple times. So if we have multiple lines of data within the file, this loop is going to run multiple times, and each time we are going to check each line for the member ID that we were searching for, and if that member ID is found once again, then this output statement is executed once again, and once again this next date on which the member visited is going to be output. So if a user has visited multiple times, we will find his ID on multiple lines, and this console.writeLine statement will execute multiple times. So this is how this code works. If the user somehow has not been found, this is the output that is going to be shown on the screen. Finally, the file is going to be closed. So same logic, just written in Visual Basic.